Well, the Prime Minister has been reluctant to weigh in on the Republican debate in the wake of the Queen's death. He says now is not the time to have the discussion, while a series of fundraisers and meet and greets with the Australian Republican movement have been postponed. Let's bring in Greg Sheridan, foreign editor of the Australian newspaper, and start, Greg, with the wash-up of the Queen's funeral and Charles becoming king. Broadly speaking, do you think the Republican movement in Australia will come out stronger or weaker following the death of Queen Elizabeth?
Well, in the short term, Andrew, I think the Republican movement is much weakened. So there's been a great outpouring of support for the monarchy and love for Queen Elizabeth. Now, I think the next few months are quite critical, though. Charles is nowhere near as good as Elizabeth. I said it was like replacing Don Bradman with Kerry O'Keefe as your star batsman, you know. So the Republicans might have some hope. I don't think Charles is going to be enough for them, though. The Republicans are incredibly disorganised, badly led. They haven't got a schmick of enthusiasm or motor energy behind them. They have no compelling vision. I think the Republic has very little chance of becoming a reality in Australia, you know, for years and years and years, if ever.
Oh, what a sledge there. He bats like Skull. I read your piece, incidentally, where you say you stood King Charles up once. Now, Vladimir Putin is looking... I should get serious here. Vladimir Putin is looking to formalise the annexation of 2 regions within Ukraine. He wants to do it by holding referendums within these regions. How desperate is he getting?
Look, Putin is in quite a lot of trouble. Dictators can be very dangerous when they're in trouble, and Putin will not ebb out of office or anything. If he finds, you know, he could have a Samson moment where he just decides to bring the whole house down. But the invasion at the military level has gone incredibly badly. He's losing territory to a much smaller, though better motivated and in some respects better equipped force. These referendums where, you know, the territories that Putin has claimed will ask to become part of Russia and he will accept them are absurd. They won't have any credibility anywhere in the world. Some people are interpreting it as saying he could then say that any attack on those territories is an attack on Russia itself, and therefore he could escalate into a national mobilisation and so forth. That's possible, but it's likely to be incredibly unpopular in Russia. There is increasing expression of discontent in Russia. My overall guess is that he'll still try to produce some kind of ceasefire later in the northern winter, hopefully for him, from his point of view, at a time of maximum energy distress for the Western Europeans. But he's under a lot of pressure, and he's a very dangerous person.
Indeed. Let's hope for the best there. Now, US President Joe Biden gave an interview to 60 Minutes this week covering a range of subjects in which he said American troops would defend Taiwan in the event of an attack. I don't think we can see this as a mistake anymore. And he also weighed in on whether he would run again in 2024. Take a listen.
So unlike Ukraine, to be clear, sir, US forces, US men and women would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion.
Yes. My intention, as I said to begin with, is that I would run again. But it's just an intention. But is it a firm decision that I run again? That remains to be seen.
What do you make of all this, Greg?
Well, I don't think he can possibly run again, although Donald Trump is absolutely ruining the chances of the Republican Party in the midterm elections. So Biden may emerge from November quite triumphant. But I do think this Taiwan stuff is incredibly important. I don't think we can any longer regard this as a slip. I think you're absolutely right to say that what we have is a new policy, and it's very sophisticated from the White House. I'm writing about it in tomorrow's paper. This is strategic ambiguity without ambiguity. So the official policy is still strategic ambiguity. The Chinese can't claim the official policy has changed. But Biden is making it clear to everyone, the Chinese and to the Taiwanese, above all, his most important audience, if China attacks, we will fight. And, you know, senior Americans have told me that they have hundreds of Chinese targets that they would destroy in the first hours of any conflict. I'm sure the Chinese know this. Now, I think Biden is strengthening deterrence. He's doing it very deliberately. I think this is quite a sophisticated, deliberate act of US policy, and I think these are very serious matters we're dealing with, but I think it's a sound move by the Americans. It reduces the chance of war, strengthening deterrence.
Greg Sheridan, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks very much, Andrew.